Hi, this is Jason from Horrific Nightmares, and it's time for a positive spin. Today we're going to be talking about the much hated An American Werewolf in Paris, the sequel to An American Werewolf in London. This is going to be not only a positive spin, but a little bit of a discussion as well. And I'll get to that a little bit later. Now, as far as my history with this film, I watched it when it first came out because I was, of course, excited for it. Even though werewolves aren't my favorite subgenre of horror, I always did, I'll watch the newest werewolf movie. I don't really have a problem with that. So I watched this one. Didn't really remember much about it afterwards, I guess. Maybe I fell asleep. I can't remember all the way back then. But what I ended up doing was I ended up buying it on DVD when I was at a thrift store and always meaning to give it another shot. I don't remember that I hated it. I just don't really remember much about it. So this DVD has been in my collection for probably 5 or 6 years, and I just haven't watched it. And when Joe and I came up with the Positive Spin series, this was one of the first movies that we wanted to talk about. Now, of course, the series is 2 years old now, maybe longer. I can't remember. But, we're finally getting to it now. So let's put a positive spin on An American Werewolf in Paris. First of all, I like when the movie starts. I love the gothic structures in the beginning. And I also like the opera house and the first kill. I think that's a really cool way to start out the film. You don't really see the werewolf yet. You're just left to your imagination, which I think is cool because you basically know what it's going to be. You just haven't seen it yet. The scenery was so cool with the Eiffel Tower. And you have, of course, the three friends that go up on the Eiffel Tower. And Tom Everett Scott plans to bungee jump, but gets a little sidetracked because he meets a female werewolf who is supposed to be the daughter of the couple in the first film. The humor is pretty fun. I'll definitely, I'll say that I quite got quite a few chuckles out of this one because I think it's just a fun movie. And I think a lot of people, because I was reading a lot of reviews, Joe and I both do a lot of research on films like this when we're going to talk about them for Positive Spin because we want to know exactly what people didn't like about them. Now, the two things that kept coming up were too much humor and, of course, CGI. CGI I'll get to a little bit later, but first I wanted to talk about the humor. While it's a little bit more than the first film, I think it fits kind of perfectly because when I was talking to Joe about this film, and we were kind of messaging back and forth. I remember David Naughton taking the girl's balloon to cover up his junk in the first one, and it's just hysterical. And of course, seeing his friends come back is kind of creepy and funny at the same time. So there is a lot of humor in the first one, so it's not really that out of place. The CGI I will get to because I do want to say something about that. So, and continuing, Club de la Luna is a clever title for a club. I thought that was pretty cool. And of course, that turns out to be like a werewolf club. Julie Delpy is pretty cute. Of course, the gratuitous nudity is not bad in the film. The graveyard is awesome. I think that's one of the better parts and one of the more atmospheric parts. But with it being London or not London, Paris, you do get a lot of really cool gothic scenery and very atmospheric scenery. Um, the underground makes up some cool sets and scenes and stuff that pretty much goes with the last thing I said. I like the soundtrack. Bush, I could pick out, of course. One of their songs was in it, and some of the other songs weren't too bad. I was never that big of a fan of the band that did the Shrek song. Their songs in there as well, and I just never been a big fan of them. But I do like a lot of the other music in it, and I like that they were looking for a cure. This one has a little bit different of a premise, and I think that that's cool to do something a little bit different with the subject matter of the first one. Now, this is a product of its time, and I will get back to that in a second. The buildings are amazing. I've already said that, but it just goes to show the scenery in this film is breathtaking. So, I just said this is a product of its time, and I did want to talk a little bit about that. I don't focus on negativity in our positive spins because that deflects what we're trying to do with, or that deters from what we're trying to do with positive spin. But I will say that An American Werewolf in London, it was known not only for being a good film and kind of a black humorous take on a werewolf film, probably one of my favorite of all time as far as werewolf movies go, but it's also known for being trend setting in practical effects. Now, here's where I think the problem is. When you have a movie that was known for not just being a great film, but being awesome as far as practical effects go, and then the second film, of course, was made in 1997, where advances in technology are so much better. I think, the CGI is going to upset some people. And in a way, I kind of understand. This was a very ambitious script. And this, of course, was written in part by John Landis, who did the first American Werewolf. And I can definitely tell it's got the same flavor. And I will agree that the CGI is a little wonky. But there is a really good story to be told here. And I think that everyone handles it really well. I like the story, I like the setting, I like the acting, the humor's funny. The only thing I really have a problem with is the CGI. But if you really take that out of the equation, you have a pretty darn good film. And once I know it's CGI in my mind, I'm just, okay, well, that's what we're left to deal with. So let's just be entertained by the movie that we have. And I think a lot of people have trouble separating that. I don't. I know Joe doesn't. And I actually really, really enjoyed this film. I don't remember it from a long time ago, so I can't tell you what I thought about it back then. But now, I kind of enjoy it. And I had noticed in doing our research and all that kind of stuff that there are a lot of people that are saying that they actually enjoy the film. They still have a problem with the CGI, which in a way I get, but they're actually liking the film for what it is. Give it another shot or don't. I think it's fun. I was entertained. Maybe you will be too. Don't forget to check out Joe's positive spin for An American Werewolf in Paris. Remember, guys, physical media matters. And until next time, peace.